If you don't have a cover stitch, we'll just show you some options. You can just use a decorative stitch. But I am going to show a technique that we do have on the S9, the 15,000, the 9450, and the M7, maybe a few other models, called the tapering stitch. So I'm on the 15,000, I'm going to go to my tapering stitches here. And any of these stitches, you can touch this, and all of these stitches can be tapered. So I'm going to choose stitch number 10 on the 15,000. It'll kind of give me a similar look to the cover stitch. And we'll review some of the options here. I'm going to go to my tapering settings right here. Now I'm going to turn the taper off at the top because I don't want it to taper at the beginning of the pennant. I just want to taper it at the point. And I'm going to do a pretty sharp taper. I'm going to do a 30-degree taper at the end. And I'm just going to leave this open so that I will touch the auto lock key when I'm ready to taper. If you know how many repeats you want, you could enter that here. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK. And then my other options here is I can turn my locking stitches on and off. So I don't want it to lock at the end, at the point, because I'm going to pivot and come back up. So I'm going to turn that locking stitch off. I'm going to let it lock at the beginning and then turn this off, and I've left my width and my length at the default. So now we'll show you how I'm going to position and sew that out. So I have positioned my pennant so that the outer edge is just a little bit past the outer edge of my F foot. So that's going to place the stitch right in here. And I have marked 1 inch above that point so that when I'm going to start my taper here, and that will end it just about that 1/2 inch above the point. So we're going to show you how I can taper that in. So I'm going to go ahead and just start sewing that. And I'm just going to let that run along here. And when I get to this line, I'm going to touch my auto lock key, and that's going to start the taper. So it did not lock. We'll just zoom in here so you can see how it tapered that stitch. So you see how the stitch got tapered right into to a point there. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to change my settings to come up the other side. So I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to close this out, go back to my settings. This time I want it to begin with the taper, and I'm going to turn it off at the end. And press OK. Now I'm going to turn off my lock stitch at the beginning and turn it back on at the end. So I've now pivoted, and I'm just going to come right back up the other side. So you can see how that made for a really nice tapered point. So practice if you have the tapering function on your machine. There's a lot of really cool things you can do with that. So I suggest just getting a piece of fabric or felt or anything like this and practice with the different angles, beginning and ending. It's a lot of fun to play with. So this is another option using your tapering function.